Hi friends, this is Marina Shepelsky. I'm the founder of Shepelsky Law Group, an immigration law firm in New York covering immigration needs for the whole United States, including immigration courts and interviews in every state. We can definitely help because immigration law is federal. Today's video is about what can USCIS and ICE do if they think you are doing immigration fraud. Usually immigration fraud comes up in any time you apply for anything. With USCIS, they review your records and things come up. Things come out. Things show up that you never even thought were possible to show up. Things that weren't planned happen, and then USCIS and ICE does fraud investigation. So the first thing they can do is do a fraud investigation. But even before a fraud investigation, for example, when you attend your marriage interview or any kind of a visa interview, they look at your prior immigration history. They look to see information that you already answered, submitted before. For example, when you left your country and you filled out a tourist visa application online or in a paper form, there were questions there. Are you married? Where do you live? Do you have family in the United States? And sometimes people give false information. Sometimes it's because the agency helping them with their tourist visa advises them to lie and say, tell USCIS, or in the case of a consular processing, tell the consular officer that you are married. If you are single, they won't give you the tourist visa. So you have to say that you're married. So that's what people do. They'll say in their tourist visa application, I'm married. They'll even make up the name of a spouse. Like they'll just create a fantasy spouse for themselves. Then years pass. This man could, for example, he's in the United States. In the United States, he gets married to a lady who's a U.S. citizen. She files for him for a marriage green card. They come to the interview now in USCIS, and USCIS pulls up on their computer the guy's visa history. And lo and behold, he says, it says here that you had a spouse. Your former wife's name is, Rosemary Jones. Where is your divorce with Rosemary Jones? And you're like, who's Rosemary Jones? So not only you lied about being married, you made up a spouse. That's like a double whammy. You would be surprised how often I see this specific scenario from so many countries in the world. Okay, and always the same thing. They say, my agency that was helping me told me to put this down. Otherwise, I never would have gotten the tourist visa. So people lie in their records all the time. People lie about never having been arrested. But sometimes immigration can check and see that you were arrested in your home country and maybe even here. People get confused, like for example, if they were arrested for driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol, GUI, DWI, they think maybe this has only to do with traffic and I don't have to tell immigration about it. Yes, you do. You have to tell immigration about any time you were detained or arrested and any time the law enforcement people made you do fingerprints. Because guess what? FBI sees that. Anytime you have to do fingerprints in the United States, they see that you have an arrest and they need you to provide them with a certificate of disposition. Lying about it makes it worse. Not only will you be charged for the crime that they only see in their record, maybe it was dismissed and you just didn't tell them about it. So if you only told them about it, it wouldn't have even been a big deal. But you didn't tell them you were arrested, you lied, and now they think you were convicted of a crime that actually was dismissed. So you are not doing yourself any service by lying about arrest. If this is a marriage case and you have addresses in other petitions that you didn't mention in this one, or you have a different address for the same period of time that you had listed elsewhere in other applications, they will see it. If you filed for a green card through marriage and you have a 2-year or even a 10-year green card and your U.S. citizen spouse files for your kids in the home country, they're going through the consular process. The Department of State that manages the consular posts can do a fraud investigation by doing some simple things in the home country. They can ask your kids at the interview what they know about your spouse. And if they know nothing, they will suspect that a fraud. So in other words, they will deny the kids, and then you can lose your own green cards, and you could get something called a revocation notice for your own green card. They can call your relatives in the home country and ask questions about you and your U.S. citizen spouse. Where do you live? What kind of work do you do? Do your children and them know about your relationship? And sometimes your relatives will say things like they never heard that you're married to the U.S. citizen spouse. The last they heard about this year was that you are still married to your original husband from your native country. But maybe you are trying to pretend that you're married to a U.S. citizen and filing that kind of case. So that all comes out when the Department of State does the fraud investigation in the home country. And they sometimes will call it administrative review. So that's part of the work they do to investigate. Another thing that happens is that they'll find that some of the documents that you gave them were fraudulent. A lot of times divorces are fraudulent. Like people just have a fake divorce, and that divorce was never registered in the home country with court or the Civil Records Bureau, whoever is handling divorces in your local country. Or they suspect birth certificates issued much later after the birth as fraudulent. So they might think you're somebody else because you have a weird birth certificate that has a date on it issued much later than when you were born. Not like the same year even, 20 years later. They'll question that kind of thing. Now, what can they do, right? The first thing they do is usually they write you a letter. If it's in USCIS, they will say, you gave us this information, we found this, explain the discrepancy. If this type of a fraud situation happens at a marriage interview, they can invite you back for a second interview called a Stokes interview and bring it up then and give you the opportunity to tell them the truth. If you keep lying about it, they will deny your case and charge you with fraud. ICE can come to your house at 3 a.m. and check if you live together with your U.S. citizen spouse. I've seen them do the same type of thing in asylum cases where the spouse who is like the lead in the asylum case is from like a country that usually gets asylum. For example, Iran. I'm just giving you an example. The man from Iran is married to a lady from, France, for example. France is usually not the kind of country that could get asylum here. And so if they suspect that this is only marriage for papers so that the spouse from France can get asylum because she was illegal and couldn't legalize all this time, she needed to legalize through this guy from Iran. This is not a real marriage. If they suspect this, ICE can come to the house at 3 a.m. and see who's home, who is in bed, where is the pictures, where is the personal clothes and shaving kits and, shoes for women. Where's your personal stuff if you live together and you're husband and wife? They can talk to neighbors. They can call your landlord. They can call the job that you're listing in the papers and find out if you work there and what's your husband's name or what's your wife's name, who is your personal contact. They can go to your job and see if you work there and what's going on. They can do investigations and in-person visits. They can call your native country Department of State consular post and have those people who work for the American government in the home country do an investigation with local authorities, local paperwork, to check a local divorce. So they do all this. They check Interpol records. I had a client who was listed as wanted, as a criminal in Interpol. So when you do biometrics for an immigration case, that might pop up and you'll get arrested and put in immigration jail if you're being wanted as a criminal, as a person who they want to arrest in your native country. If you're in Interpol and other organizations, okay, they look for terrorist stuff, they look for people who are wanted criminals from the country. I had one client that they suspected was a very notorious military person in his country, and they thought that his whole persona, he got asylum, he got a green card, and he filed for his family. And they only noticed this when he filed for the green card for his wife and kids in his country, that they thought the actual person that he is the military bad guy from that country, like a local Hitler who tortured and killed hundreds of people in that country during some revolution or military uprising or whatever. Okay, so I'm just letting you know these are the kinds of things that happen. They usually come up when you apply for anything with immigration, here or at the consular post. That's when they look everything all over again, and a few pairs of eyes is looking, and your biometrics are run through all kinds of systems. Never underestimate the U.S. government. These are people who might be different from you because you think that they're so stupid and they smile at you and they're so nice, but do not underestimate them. They could smile at you and have your whole arrest record in front of them while you're sitting there and looking at them and telling them you've never been arrested. So please be very careful. Always be honest with USCIS. And if you doubt whether to say about something, you better just say it and have paperwork to prove it. You're always better off listing something, maybe it's not a big deal even, than not listing it. Then it looks like you're hiding, and in the United States, being accused of lying or fraud is literally the worst thing that could happen to you with your immigration case. Probably if you murder somebody, it wouldn't even be that bad. Of course, I'm joking, but even criminal punishment in America is usually the worst for fraud, embezzlement, tax fraud, lying. Lying is worse than hitting someone in America. I'm just letting you know so you understand how the system works. With this, I leave you. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. If you like this video, please give us a little heart to show us you like it. Please become a subscriber. Find us on Instagram, find us on Facebook, Law Offices of Marina Shepelsky, Shepelsky Law Group. We work with VAWA cases, abuse and marriage to green card holder or citizen. We work with asylum. We'll help you legalize through small kids born in the United States when you're here over 10 years. Give us a call. We can help you become a U.S. citizen. Bye-bye.